Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, the South African Wanderer, and today I wanted to take you through a quick edit workflow I did on an image that we got while we were looking for the Pals fishing owl out in Limpopo in June this year. So I'm going to quickly tell you how this image almost came about and then show you how we edit it. So I'm just using Bridge to go through some of the raws that we did get. And I'll take you through the sighting and then how we plan the shot. And then I'll quickly show you how we edit the shot. So we were driving along the Limpopo River late in the afternoon. I think we had tried the first spot for the pals and we were unsuccessful. And we were driving to almost the second spot. And we came across this Goliath Heron. So I'm just going to use Bridge quickly and take you through some of the shots we got and tell you how I almost planned the shot that I wanted to get eventually. So he was in the middle of the river on a little bit of a rocky island, as you can see, and the sun was hitting him quite nicely. But yeah, the background and the island itself was a bit noisy. And then he started moving across the from the island that he was on. And you can see as he moves across, the little bit of white sort of dead trees on the bank almost falls away. And then he keeps moving. And eventually he goes and stands on a small island in the middle of the river. But as you can see, again, there's more white dead tree branches behind him, and then a little bit of a tree in front as well, so blocking the foreground. So just on this image, so this is image 4791. As you can see, the Goliath Heron itself is very well lit, and the foreground is well lit as well, and the background is a bit darker, but there's a lot of noise and stuff in the background. And the reason for this is when I'm shooting with my Sony A1, I shoot on multi mode or metering, which then takes into account the whole screen and sort of the whole image, and then gives you the right metering for that image. So I shoot auto ISO, and in a dark image like this, the camera would then try to pick up the exposure because of all the dark areas in the photo, and therefore the subject then gets almost overexposed. So with the exposure on multi, the camera then chose an ISO of about, I think it's 1,000 for this image. And I had an idea of what I wanted to do with the image in post. And, the exposure of the bird obviously needed to be correct. And I also wanted to make the background almost completely black. So then I took a shot, which is the shot that we're going to edit. And you can see on this shot, it's quite a bit darker. And then to actually achieve this shot, I had to switch the ISO from auto ISO to manual, and I dropped it to, I think it's 320 ISO to get the exposure on the background a little bit darker, and then the bird is not overexposed as well. So that was just the thinking and planning that went into the shot, knowing almost before I even took the shot what the edit I wanted was. So let's go through and edit this photo now. So I've run the photos through DxO, and I in my video on my workflow, I gave you the benefits of using DxO. You can watch that video where we edited, I think it was a little bee eater um, for the video. So we'll open up Camera Raw. And now in Camera Raw, we're going to quickly run through some of the settings. So obviously with the exposure, we're going to lift it a little bit just to get the bird, correctly exposed. You don't want it overexposed. So yeah, we're just going to lift it a little bit. We're going to drop the highlights and lift the shadows a little bit. But again, we don't want to lift too much of the shadows where we're going to get, the background coming through, and then it's going to make our edits a little bit harder. We're going to drop the blacks so that, the shadows are more black basically. And then on the white balance, I think it shot it quite cold. So I'm going to go to daylight, and that brings up a little bit better colors. I'm going to drop the warmth a little bit and the tint as well, because we're going to increase the vibrance and then the saturation. So you can now see it's, in the afternoon, in the late afternoon. And then the other sort of edits are just a dehaze. We don't do anything on curve. We just go into and then we go into detail, and we'll increase the sharpening just a little bit. We won't do too much sharpening because we sharpen in Photoshop itself. And then on the optics, we'll just use the profile correction. So I don't use the profile correction in DxO. I do it in Adobe because you can control the vignette and the distortion. I think DxO will overdo the vignette, and then you'll get lighter corners on the image. And it can spoil your image a little bit. So then we're going to open that in Photoshop. Okay, so what you'll see when we open it in Photoshop, and it actually opens on the default to the crop, so that's a good thing. This island that this bird is on is a little skew for my liking, so we'll correct that. And then almost to get the bird in focus. I mean, this composition, if you look at it now, is quite good, still quite a strong composition. Is this island actually level? Let's level out this island. Yeah, I think now it's level. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. So yeah, I think it is now level. It's just the shadow does make it look like it's not level. But if you look at the heron's legs, I think it is level now. As you can see, this composition is quite a strong composition still. It's on a third, or just off a third, on the left. And, the background is almost all black without even doing anything to edit it. And the bird is almost where I want it in the composition. So it's just on this right corner, we've got a little bit of a bright spot again that may distract from the bird and its shadow and reflection in the water. So what I'm going to do is do a square crop, and that almost eliminates that bright spot. It also takes out some of the branches that are in the way on the left-hand corner. And then what I'm going to do is just move the square around a little bit, so then we get the composition that we want. So the bird is not too centered. So it's doing this with this mouse is not the easiest. So there's our crop. So the bird is, yeah, nicely in the frame, and I think nicely exposed now without any overexposure on the bird itself. You can see the bird's eye is quite sharp, and when we do our sharpening, it will sharpen it up a little bit more. So the background will have some spots of white in it. So what I would do now is quickly add an adjustment layer. So a levels adjustment layer, and I would say lighten shadows. So if you see now, you see a lot of the noise in the background layer. And if you not viewing it on the same screen, some of this noise would actually come through. So before running, my sharpening, which I do through frequency separation, I'm just going to go through and use the burn tool and burn some of the midtones and actually the highlights as well. So we're going to quickly duplicate the base layer so that we don't actually do anything to the base layer. And then we're going to make sure that the the copy of the base layer is selected. And then we're going to go through and burn some of these, what I would call highlights in the background. So we look at the midtones and then the highlights. Okay, the highlights are not burning, so we'll do the shadows as well. And if you do shadows on some of them, they do burn away. They do burn away, some of these brighter areas in the background that, even though is not going to show up, that you can almost dodge and burn. So if you are entering, for instance, a nature competition, dodging and burning as a technique is allowed. So you can dodge and burn in and around your subject, and your subject for that matter as well. And then you can get rid of some of what would be distractions in the background of the bird by doing this. And then what I'm also going to do is this greener area here, I'm also going to burn so that it shows up less in the final image. And you can be more careful with your brush when you're doing it as well. So then one, I think, other thing I would do is the reflection at the moment. So where the bird's head or the Goliath Heron's head is in the water is also a little bit brighter. So I would actually just quickly, touch around there so that it's less of a distraction in the final image. And it tones it down a little bit as well. So now we will turn off that levels layer, and we'll run through our normal sharpening and contrast and lightning. So replicate the background layer, do your high pass filter, and then you go soft light, and then I would normally do a curve adjustment, and I would do a linear contrast, and then I would do a levels adjustment, and again lighten shadows. But this time around, I'll switch the opacity down to about, I'd say about, well, 30 to 40. And there's basically the final image. So if you go to bridge, this was our initial image with the camera raw adjustments applied. We adjusted the color and the saturation. And then this is the final image, just with our quick edits, really quick edits. And then I would just, add my signature to this. But on this image, the signature can detect almost as well. So, maybe even leaving it without the signature is a bit better. So PJ and I basically have the very same image. The only difference would be crop and the editing process that we went through, because we were sitting almost one behind the other with Jay in between us. So yeah, that's my quick edit on this Goliath Heron. This is what you'd call a low-key shot. So it's mostly dark and black, and you isolate the subject in that way. I think with the golden reflection on the water, it's also quite cool. And yeah, it's one of my favorite images I got on the trip, and basically I think this year so far as well, one of my favorite images. So I just wanted to show you all how I would go through and edit it. And, hopefully you guys learn not only about the editing process, but also about having an image in your mind and then knowing how to shoot that image in the field so that you can edit when you're back at your desk. So yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in the comment section, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.